Well, I needed to make rib caps to finish out all my ribs. I've got 19 done, so I'm over halfway there. And still got to do the false ribs, which are 26 of those. But since I'm out here anyways, I took a board, straightened one edge using the straight edge. I just put a line, got the best straight edge, and this time I used the skill saw and got close to that line, virtually on it in some places. And then I used my belt sander, 50 grit sandpaper, and I got a perfectly straight edge. That was a lot easier than trying to put a 3/4 inch board, tacked it onto it like I did one time, and run it through this slot. It's not a bad practice for shorter boards, but this here is a very long board to do that with. So anyways, these spar caps, I'm reducing the size down to 0.86 in both dimensions. So the 1 inch direction would be 0.86 wide, and the 3/4 inch direction would be 650, but that just seemed a little bit small for me, so I'm going to leave it at close to 700 thousandths. So I already cut all of the what would be the 1 inch direction. I've already cut them and then skimmed one edge. And of course, look at this grain direction. This here, none of this will be useful. Right about here, this would be good for scarf joint, right in there. Take that little bend right there, and that's where you want to place the scarf joint. And so now that I've got one end cleaned up, one edge cleaned up, I'll go ahead and cut it right to about 700 thousandths is what I'm going to do. I got a little helper there. It's going to get blasted with sawdust if she doesn't step out of the way. Hey, you. All right, now that they're all cut, the 1 inch by 3/4 is actually, for mine, is 860 thousandths or 875 by about a little over 700 to about 715 thousandths. And of course the slot goes on the wide side like this. And when we do the slots, it's just the same as when we do the wing rib caps. Same thing. It's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch. I go a little deeper. 1/8 of an inch is so little, so I go a little bit deeper than that. And if there's a little bit of bow to the board, I tend to keep it bowed up, rocking up, and the bowed side down, and it's easier to push it down into the web if it's already bowed, because you're going to need to bow it and slide it down onto the webs. Here's where you also want to make sure your web fits your slot. So one of the first things I'm going to do is, I've got a little piece that I cut some of my gussets and that out of, and I'm just going to run this through the saw and get a straight edge like right through here. And then I'm just going to use that as a gauge to make sure that I can get the web into that slot. And of course, you're going to dry fit everything first. You're going to build that thing, take it back apart, and then glue it up and finish it and clamp it. But we'll do this the same way we did the wing rib caps with the feathering board pushing down right over top of the blade to make sure we get equal depth the whole length. Now, before I put this top feathering board on here that's going to hold it down against the blade so that we get an equal groove, I'm going to run this through just a little bit. This is all bad grain anyways at this here, last foot, maybe 1.5 foot. So I'm just going to run it through, raise it up, then I'm going to measure side to side and see how central I get it. Now, regardless of how central I get that, I am going to mark the far side, the side that's against the fence. I'm going to mark that side of it so that whenever I go to do my scarf joints and that, all of the grooves are going to line up with each other. I'm also going to check and make sure that my web is going to fit in here. And that is not going to fit in there. Perhaps my blade is just getting slightly dull. It doesn't look like it though. For some reason, it's just not quite cutting as much as it used to. It used to be this webbing would go right into it. 122 thousandths, and evidently that's just a little bit tight. Evidently my blade's getting slightly dull. So the way you solve this is you have to run it through once, run them all through once, and you got to make sure the same side is against the fence each time. And then I'll measure this and set this and zero it where the blade is now, and just bump it in, bump it over just a few thousandths, 3 to 5 thousandths. And I'll do the same thing. I'll run this here through this end of the board through, and then check that piece of webbing, make sure it fits. So I'm marking the side that goes along the fence. I'll do it about 6 places down through here, just make sure I don't cut a scarf joint and misplace which side was against the fence. So I'll do it about every 8 to 10 inches here. Back end don't need it because this grain is so horrible. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is measure 381 thousandths, 396. Wow. Huh. That's almost perfect for what we need, because this is the fence side, so we'll be bumping the fence back in towards the blade just a little bit. And we got 381, and that's not even 10 thousandths difference. 381, yeah, just over 10 thousandths. But once we bump it in, it'll even be closer to perfectly centered. So it's real close where I got it. So I ruined the first piece because I forgot to tighten the fence up, and I'm making a video, honey. I'm not talking to you. So I ruined the first piece. It was way too wide. This one here is just a little too snug. It's going to be very difficult to get the entire web to go in there. I just need like an extra thousandths or two, and that's real difficult to get. Now I just spent about 15 minutes eking this out, just a few thousandths at a time, until it's just snug, but yet can slip fairly easy, because the glue will help it slip in, And if I have difficulty, I can always sand the edge just a little bit along the edge, of just a pinch. But I still will not just run them all through. I'm gonna run them through one at a time, check it, make sure it's coming to the exact right width. And that's just perfect right there. A little bit tight, but yet slides pretty smoothly.